Hello, everyone. We're here back with you. Today we have some other news regarding specifically our channel to talk about in the broader implication. And Marcus is still out. Unfortunately, we still wish him the best with his family and health, and we hope to see him here soon. How are things on your end, Keith?
Things been pretty good for me this week. I haven't, I've done a lot of things. I haven't had enough time to finish anything, but it's all good, and I hope things have been good with you. I know you had something happen to you yesterday, and it's going to be the subject of the show. And but I hope things have been good with you otherwise, and it's good to be here again.
Yeah. And before we go in, I'll mention our hashtag on Twitter. If you guys want to be in contact with us, direct contact, you use this hashtag UHM, no joke, without spaces, and we will respond. Likewise, if anything happens to the channel, you can. We're gonna be notifying what's going on through Twitter. So just be tuned to this. Write it down somewhere, or just if you remember, that's great. All right.
Oh yeah, and I will add, that Marcus has been in touch with us, and he's missing being on the show, and he would be there if he didn't have, personal issues that he needs to address.
Yes. Yep. So, basically, we're going to cover mainly two stories today. One is we got struck with YouTube censorship. I don't know, about 60 of you watched a live discussion with Professor Yair Argon, who's an immunologist and a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. We discussed the vaccine specifically and all the misinformation, and partial information that's out there, and try to provide as balanced and as scientifically based approach to the information out there, because we feel that there's a lot of lack of it and misunderstanding, and people fearing things, not taking vaccine because they fear things that are not necessarily that shouldn't have stopped them from taking the vaccine, but and at the same time acknowledging the things that we still don't know about the vaccine. So that got hit. I got
and I'll interrupt you there, Amos, just to say that I watched it last night, and it's very good, and it has been taken down from YouTube. And I just wanted to interrupt you to say that it is still available on Odyssey, which is where I grabbed it. I actually grabbed it, downloaded it myself, and put it up on my own website. And I'm not pushing my website on the show today. That's not the thing. But we're able to put the tape up there so that people can see it. And I'll now give it back to you. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, so basically I received a note that our channel has been warned, since it's the first time they're not taking our channel down entirely, but they struck the content, and the reason they gave for it was medical misinformation. Now, there was nothing misinforming in the whole show, as far as you could probably imagine. We're not trying to spread rumors, spread fear, or anything like that. And anything that we've said was with the doctor's his understanding and his knowledge of the issues. He's a respected doctor, probably not a progressive, but liberal. And it's really, to me, it's ironic and in a way comical that they that they censored that particular show because it is out there to dispel all kinds of populist misinformation that's being politically propagated. So I wrote a little bit of rebuttal here. I sent them an appeal. There's an automatic way you can't, of course, you can't talk to anybody in person. It's like a gray machine. You can only post back through a form an appeal, and then they will let us know what their result is. But there's really no way to talk with anyone.
Yeah, and I'm going to add that Amos was interviewing a professor last night who is distinguished and qualified. And one argument I'm going to make in this whole thing is that if you're going to do censorship, fine and dandy if you are going after genuine misinformation. But, when you're going after somebody who's got a PhD from a major university and has been a respected member of the faculty, and you're saying that this guy doesn't know medicine, well, it's a point I'll make again before the show's over. I think right there that should have been, an automatic, prevention of censorship. So, yeah, I want to throw that in.
So here's what I wrote in Rebutals. There is no medical misinformation presented on the show. We parse and critique a claim made by an individual and explain what they got wrong. It is pretty much a rebuttal. We stuck to undisputed scientific facts. We find it ironic that you should censor the very attempt of bringing reason, evidence-based information and a balanced scientific approach to the discussion. So that's basically what I wrote. We will see what they do with that. Hopefully they will remove their strike, but I find it very disturbing that and that is something that actually we discussed on the show, because there were doctors that felt that the discussion around this is being squelched, and that it's not in favor of science to squelch and to silence doctors or people regarding issues of research and vaccine, even if there is a sensitivity. And if you remember, we had our position, both mine and Keith, in the past, and still is, regarding fear mongering, was that we do see a point of not allowing the like stuff that is clearly propaganda or clearly designed to create panic in the public to be broadcast or streamed over media. But this is different. It's to squelch down on actual discussion and information and nuanced observation and so forth is just, it's counterproductive. It probably is going to affect them back. So Keith, let me give you the floor to talk about it.
Well, that's absolutely right, Amos, and you're actually introducing what I'm going to play with this Richard Medhurst tape, because last week I made my position known. As I came out as the science guy, and I that actually led to some controversy, as it was mentioned on Aurora Media, and just kind of discussed there, and that prompted me to start working on this tape Monday, and it's 45 minutes long, so I cut it down to 6. I took the important parts, and what I want people to pay attention to, and I was mentioning this to Amos just before the show, is that there's very clear statements made from the White House spokesperson. I think her name's Jen, right? And she, the government's behind the censorship at YouTube and Facebook. And if you listen to what her words, and this is the White House spokesperson, It's all there. But, one thing about these things is you have to know what you're listening to. And that's why I'm bringing it out before we play the tape, just to ask you to kind of pay attention to what she is betraying about the true involvement about who's doing what. And so go ahead and play it. Let's just enjoy it. And yeah.
So apparently the White House is working with Facebook to compile lists of people who spread misinformation, which conveniently, they do not specify what exactly that could entail.
This is a big issue of misinformation, specifically on the pandemic. We've increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. We're working with doctors and medical professionals to connected medical experts who are popular with their audiences with accurate information and boost trusted content. So we're helping get trusted content out there.
Okay, what the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? Did you hear what she said? Did you hear what she said? The White House is working with Facebook to look at disinformation. Now, could someone please tell me on what planet that makes sense? Apparently this one. This is yesterday, huh? Right? So here's what she says today. She goes further. Look what she says here.
And providing for Facebook or other platforms to measure and publicly share the impact of misinformation on their platform and the audience it's reaching. Also with the public, with all of you, to create robust enforcement strategies that bridge their properties and provide transparency about rules. You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others for providing misinformation out there.
Wow. So you see what's going on here? You see what's going on now? They're saying if you say something they don't like, right? Because I know YouTube has a problem with it. You heard what they have grievances with. I'm not going to say it because of the algorithm. Look at where we're at. They're censoring me from covering the topic because we know what happens. I would love to see your reaction if Joe fucking Biden came and took down your work from the internet. I'd love to see your reaction. I bet you'd be singing a different fucking tune then, wouldn't you? We all know what happens once the state gets sweeping powers. Who do they go for? Who are the first people they go for? The leftists. Look at history. They always go for the left. And how are they getting away with this? Oh, look, this guy's posting medical disinformation. Yeah, okay. What about when they said that, Press TV's website's going to be seized? Was that medical information? You saw what they did with Press TV? They banned Press TV on Facebook. They banned Press TV on Google. They banned Press TV on YouTube. They banned Press TV on its own website. The Biden administration came and seized their own. So where does this end? It's not just about medical crap. It's already been political. It's already been political. Do you understand? Dude, I swear to God, sometimes I type presstv.com and I forget that they seized the website. I'm looking for something with my show and I forget they seized the website. This is blue MAGA. This is you remember how they were saying, oh, you got to vote for Biden because democracy is on the ballot.
As you know, we're in a regular touch with a range of media outlets. Let me finish. As we are in regular touch with social media platforms. This is publicly open information, people sharing information online, just as you are all reporting information on your news stations.
Okay, so these 12 people who you have on a list, 12 individuals, do they know that somebody at the Surgeon General's office is going through their profile?
I'm happy to get you the citation of where that comes from. There's no secret list. I will tell you that these are people who are sharing information on public platforms on Facebook, information that is traveling, is inaccurate. Our biggest concern here, and I frankly think it should be your biggest concern, is the number of people who are dying around the country because they're getting misinformation that is leading them to not take a vaccine. Young people, old people, kids, children, this is all a lot of them are being impacted by misinformation.
The big concern, though, I think, for a lot of people on Facebook is that now this is Big Brother watching you.
They're more concerned about that than people dying across the country because of a pandemic where misinformation is traveling on social media platforms. That feels unlikely to me. If you have the data to back that up, I'm happy to discuss it.
About things that are on Facebook, I looked this morning.
Yeah, that's it.
Interesting. I haven't seen that. It's interesting to watch. Yeah. So there's a wider debate. There's a wider discussion there. If we want to get a little bit into the depth of it, and that is that up to now, the whole idea of freedom of speech in the social media or in media platforms has been kind of pushed back against because people were saying First Amendment. Well, it's not a First Amendment if the government is not the one that's squelching the information. It is only First Amendment only covers the government. So if it's a private company, they still can legally ban information, censor. With that said, if now the government all of a sudden takes a role in participating in this and providing lists of who should be censored and who shouldn't be censored and so forth, it becomes potentially a First Amendment question. And it's a slippery slope, in my opinion, because, yeah, you may have some extremist people that you're first, there's 12 people, I don't know who they are, but if you start dealing with them, maybe those are fear mongers, but the point is that it's slippery slope. The government should not have any role whatsoever in determining who is censored and who is not, to the point of dictating it to multiple platforms. That's the other part of it, because you're not talking about one. Yes, because you're talking about the blanket censorship of an individual. Nobody can hear from them because they seized their site. They blocked them on YouTube. They blocked them on social media. They closed all the potential venues for that individual to express their opinions, and so that becomes more of an issue than just an individual platform demonetizing or censoring or whatever. So it is a very problematic thing, and now that we've been hit ourselves, we can see how broad and ridiculous the censorship criteria can be, because if they can block us for medical misinformation, and we're the ones trying to provide clarity in the area, then you can imagine where this goes. And that is just, I think that like you, Keith, told me, I think that this kind of existed previously in terms of censorships and
it very much existed. It's been going on for years.
But now that
none of this is news to me at all. All that's happened is COVID's come along and it's put it in everybody's face. And I'll be discussing that very soon. The next slide that we show will introduce what I'm going to introduce, sort of. And the website we've actually put the show on, I started because I was being censored, and this was 10 years ago. And that's not the subject of the show today. I'm not going to get into it, but I will just say that my history, being deeply involved in concerns for the environment, one angle of that is resource depletion, and I got very interested in like what we are going to do when we run out of oil. And I was among a group that basically was harassed very strongly, and then that's another story. I don't want to start it, but it's important because the importance is I started my own website that's independent. I pay for it myself. It doesn't cost a lot of money. I rent server space. I write all the software that posts everything up there, which is, the web's improved, so a guy can do that on his own now, without too much trouble. The point is, it's not on Blogspot. It's not on YouTube. Nobody owns it. So if I am censored, it's coming directly from Uncle Sam. And have things happened? Yes, as recently as last November. Not anything serious, but I was posting a few things here and there that I know attracted some attention, and I was sent a message. And so what happened there was some links on my website were changed so they would go somewhere else, and where they went told me exactly who did it. So there was no issue about any but that's getting into my personal problems, and that's not the subject of the show. So we're going to go to the next slide.
Which
and
slide? This one?
like I say, Amos called me and told me what happened yesterday, prompted me to watch the show. And I wrote, I try to write something every week. So I had already written an article Friday, and after watching the tape, I wrote another one, and I'm going to read it in its entirety. It's only 700 words or so. And I titled it, Amos Got Soaked, because the article I wrote earlier in the day was A Little Rain Must Fall, referring to the 17 inches of rain that fell in Tennessee, because we're not covering the environment today. There's too much in the show to even touch on the continuing train wreck of ongoing disasters caused by the elevated temperatures, causing more water to be taken up, in evaporation, and then dumped all at once somewhere where it doesn't do any good but cause huge damage. So Amos got soaked, and I'm going to let Amos just show my some slides on my website while I read it, and I'll just get it right into it. Amos got soaked, Friday, August 27th. 2 entries for Friday. I was going to pick up a car I was having repaired today when I began getting text messages from Amos. He was upset. The first time you get censored is very upsetting. I remember. I have had my website for a long time. I know about censorship. That is why I'm not on Blogspot or anything else. I rent server space for this website by myself. There is no middleman. I know where the buck stops this way. The dead bones of a Blogspot might direct you here. I can't remember. After a decade of censorship, I'm used to it. Like a fish, I don't think about the water every day. But the first time censorship happens, it is an assault. Amos is upset because he had a show taken down at YouTube. It turns out Uphill Media also lists shows on Odyssey, which is where I grabbed it. I downloaded, I watched it, then I posted it here. And then you see the posting. It is very good and nuanced. An intelligent discussion with Dr. Yair Argon, professor of the Department of Pathology and Lab Medicine at the Perelman School of Medicine, University of Pennsylvania. And there I give the logo, Dr. Argon has a page at the university website. The red text is a link to that page. Based on Dr. Argon's qualifications, Uphill Media should not be suppressed, but YouTube algorithms are not so smart. We shall see where things go on appeal. The government agency telling YouTube what to do might not tolerate showing any of the banned material Amos showed. Amos showed it so it could be talked about, but a zero tolerance government policy may not care. I understand people are getting upset over censorship. I am not. I know what's going on. It is nothing new, and I adjusted to it a decade ago. That is when I found out dissident voices are being suppressed as collateral damage in the war on terror. In general, America is only beginning to know the score. Nobody cared before COVID came along and put it in everybody's face. Dissident voices have been suppressed for a long time. Nobody cared. Through the years, from when I learned what was behind the curtain that Toto pulled away, my ideas of censorship refined. The irony now is I do not disapprove of the suppression of demonstrable pseudoscience and deliberate misinformation. Not everyone thinks in America. People are different. We have all kinds. Some people become accomplished musicians, and I respect their skill. Some become so accomplished they can't help but eventually compose their own music. But not everybody rolls that way. Some people become skilled musicians and never play an original note. Everything these musicians play is written by others. They are disposed to copy. Their skill deserves respect. Not all of us copy well. Society has all types of people. Some compulsively create and some compulsively follow. We all follow more than we think we do. In the name of public good, suppressing COVID misinformation is not a bad thing if it saves lives. Screaming fire in a crowded theater, for those who remember theaters, is comparable. We are in a public health emergency. Now policy should be decided by responsible people. Professors from schools of medicine are appropriate examples. And you know why I put that sentence in there. People deserve protection. The government as we know it should not do censorship. The will of the people is not served. When our government does censorship, only the elite are served. Obama implemented heavy, insidious, and quiet censorship. Biden helped. 8 years in office, and Obama Justice Department spearheaded 8 Espionage Act prosecutions, more such prosecutions than all previous administrations combined. Obama jerked me around. This website I created as a result of that jerk around. It is good Trump did not know about all the tools of of suppression at his disposal. Trump found out and began to use the power, but near the end of his term. This website had content changed last November, is how I know that is true. I was sent a message then. It is not the first time. Fortunately for me and others, fascism light has fewer consequences than regular fascism does. Digital suppression is effective enough. Minor leaks are inconsequential when media is controlled, so fascism light has fewer calories, but has the same ass-kicking taste of oppression. Bonus material. In Amos's YouTube suppressed video, he plays a tape of Dr. Robert Malone discussing bioethics, and then I put the tape. I downloaded the podcast and put that here so he can listen to that, as well as watching the the repressed show, which is obviously earlier in the on the webpage. And so that's it. And back to Amos here at Uphill Media. I can say that because I was looking at my own webpage.
Yes. Well, yeah. Yeah. The whole thing is it just disturbs me because like I said, I think it's a slippery slope. I think it's a very coarse tool that's being applied. The people who are applying these restrictions and censorships probably are not doctors, medical doctors.
Oh, to them, it's just business as usual. It's only a slippery slope to us, right? I put out the only thing in what I wrote, I put the only justification for any of this, which in the case of COVID is public health. Beyond that, there is nothing, if you do any kind of censorship, you're suppressing people. You're suppressing points of view. It's the same thing as voter suppression. What the Republicans are always trying to do, gerrymander and rig things so that they can get the vote. And unethical Democrats will do the same thing. They're both wrong.
Right, and we don't know what got our video struck. I would presume that there's some algorithm somewhere that kicked it to someone.
Well, the algorithm kicked it right away because
possibly.
Because I think the information may have been, if you had a rule book that they gave you so that you could, like, on this show, you have to put the disclaimer logo. So you're identifying it as, a fair use or something like that. There may have been ways to get the show through, but you would have had to do major work on it and a lot more than we really have time to do, because we just do this for fun. We're not getting paid to do this or anything, it's like our own time, right? And
fun
so
is
you
probably the wrong term, but we're doing it voluntarily. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. And the point is, as you didn't, I watched the tape, and there are long periods of time when like that what was it, the meeting, the public meeting where that I'll call him the nutball was talking, if an algorithm's watching the show, they're just going to see this like minute-long talk, and it's going to identify the frames as being from that particular public meeting, and it's going to flag it. And then what would happen, like if things are being done ethically and public health is generally being defended, then that would be reviewed by real people, and they would say, oh, well, these guys are just talking about they're just doing what Americans are supposed to be doing, right? The democracy thing. And and there shouldn't be a problem, but I don't, because of those long stretches of misinformation that you put in there to talk about. I think that it very well may not survive appeal, and that the only way you're going to be able to see it is like on Odyssey or my place.
Right. Oz asks, who should be in charge of suppressing misinformation? Paragraph 2. How is it determined, and by whom?
Well, if it should be out in the open, whatever it is. I mean, they're
Right.
the people who what's her name? That Powell woman who said all kinds of crazy stuff. She's in actual legal trouble, and she's got to answer to, she's being summoned to court, I think, right today. In fact, she's got to answer to something, and that's it. If you got people that are putting out misinformation, they can be identified, and then you can go, look, you are doing this, you stop it or else. But that's not the same thing as suppressing discussion, which is going on, which happened yesterday, when YouTube took down your show.
Yeah. And there's the other thing is, let us say that the government was not getting involved through the means that they are right now with the supplying names for censorship and so forth. And it's a clear-cut situation where it is not a First Amendment question. Basically, like I said, a private company can decide what to allow or what not to allow on their platform, and so they do that. The problem that we have with that, with YouTube or one of those major players, Facebook, is that they're almost a monopoly, and this is kind of highlighting that to everybody to notice. It's the fact that if you get your material struck from YouTube, it's not like getting it struck from one of the many platforms out there, because the next most popular platform is like a tenth or even less of YouTube's popularity. So it is not at all. It is more like the situation where you have a monopoly. In this case, you have antitrust issues that pop up and put into question whether they should be censoring the way they are or not. So they're I think damaging their own brand by the fact that they're doing so, because it's highlighting the point that they have become almost a monopoly, and that is calling into question trust, antitrust, or monopoly breaking needs. So I think that ultimately it is counterproductive even for YouTube to do that. It's kind of a shame that they've done that. And the other thing, Keith, this YouTube thing it's not the best platform for us, is it?
No, it's really not. The YouTube's, if we were doing a home improvement show or doing a hobby show or something like that, there'd be all sorts of things, advertisers that would be interested in selling a product on their show. But what are we going to sell? Shea t-shirts? I mean, who's going to sponsor this? An organic farming co-op? We're not going to. We're not a big bucks thing for YouTube. Getting a few hundred subscribers or viewers doesn't mean anything to them, because the truth is we are not the customers. We are the product, and YouTube sells the product, what we produce, to advertisers who pay their bills. And the more subscribers that, more people we would get to watch the show, the more money we would get, the more money YouTube would get. And that's for a public discussion show, politically oriented, and it's just not a good platform. And the thing is, though, there's really, like Amos is putting out, there's really nowhere to go. It's the one thing about censorship I've learned in all this is that you don't actually have to take things down. The point is the public they follow you can a few leaks through, and as long as you're controlling the major media outputs and you're hammering your message every day, that's the message that's going to win. So in this whole game, absolute suppression is not essential. So where I'm going with this is that though what happened this week is very in our face and evident, there are other things that could, just making the show hard to get you, controlling the advertising, controlling links on a page where they're placed, where Google, you do a search on Google, what's at the top of the page. You only, if you're like most people, and we all are like most people most of the time, you look at the first 10 links and you don't look at the further down. You're being spoon-fed and you're being controlled. And it's a very nuanced, complicated thing. And until you develop an awareness of it, you can't see any of it. You're like a fish in water. Yeah.
Yes, and again, the censor segment is we put it on Odyssey, which is not as suppressive as YouTube at the moment in terms of content. And I don't know, if YouTube doesn't want us on their platform, we may have to migrate regardless of our exposure. Sadly, it's a limiting factor. But I recommend everybody to check this service out. It's also going to play into an upcoming segment that we have about cryptocurrency, because the company that Odyssey is based on, in terms of its platform, is Library. And Library has been targeted recently by the government. In the SEC, they're trying to shut them down based on claims that their platform, their crypto platform, is in fact like a stock trade situation where they don't have a license to stock trade. And so this whole thing is yet another debate, but we will save that for our next week's show on cryptocurrency, probably Wednesday, and just keep tuned to that. But nevertheless, just check Odyssey. There's a lot of other content there. We've looked into Rockfin. We don't particularly like Rockfin because that is, on the other hand, like a tool for profit, for revenue generation. You basically have to bring subscribers that pay a premium subscription fee to Rockfin in order to get ahead in terms of the exposure there, and to get some kickback revenue. That's really not our model, and so we're more looking for other options. If you guys have any ideas, definitely let us know on Twitter. And again, if we have any information, if anything happens to this channel, all suddenly this is where we're going to place any information. So share that along. All right.
And Amos, before I forget, I wanted to mention something, since we're talking about other platforms, and that's last week. I was upset because I had seen, been upset by information that I had been watching on other channels. And I remembered I wanted to make clear today that Roar Media had nothing to do with that. It was other people that were pissing me off, because, I may not disagree with everything that's said at Roar Media, but we are both on the same page. We both want discussions, and we both tolerate other points of view. We're just interested in here to help each other. And I just, I see Oz's in the chat, and I wanted to make that clear that nobody at Roar Media caused me to be upset last week. It was other people, and they know who they are.
Yep. And as far as the this whole debate is, I think part of what's triggering is the discussion of a particular anti-warming medication that has been kind of like propped up by some political people as the solution for COVID-19, as replacing the need for a vaccine we disputed that on the show, and we obviously don't believe that this is a miracle.
It's a word
cure.
that can't be said.
Yeah, it's a word that cannot be said by itself. But with that said, there's been some information that from trials in vitro and pre-trials and so forth that has been positive, and there's no conclusion yet scientifically as to how relevant it is in the in actual clinical trials. In other words, in people, in whole organism people. So either way, we don't believe it's a cure-all, and that's there, and we think that there is unfortunately a lot of politicization of this whole topic, sadly, because it is not a political thing. It's a scientific thing. It either there is evidence for something, or there is not, or there is partial, and we should parse through the details. But to not talk about it is it's counterproductive. It's not good for anything. It's not good for science, and for our democracy. So there we go. That is basically our position. Let's move on to the next topic.
Yes, the bombing. This was interesting. We're talking about censorship and propaganda, and this sure was full of it. You know, I looked into this yesterday, thinking about stuff to write about and put in the show, and I researched this thing. I looked at many articles about it that were coming out in news reports, because they're really not articles, it's recent news. And then, I wrote some stuff on my website, and then at the very end of it, I found a CBS tape that was just really revealing, because it was only 1 hour after the bombing, and they already knew who did it. And we were, and the people who took over Afghanistan, those filthy Taliban people, are like our friends, and they, because they were policing the outside of the airport, and the bullshit around this has gotten really thick. And the last thing I heard, not much before the show started, was a report that was putting out that there were just as many Taliban killed as there were Americans, and that 100 or so people altogether are and we're just being I think we're just being really fed a line of bull on all this. And the truth is, the truth is, I think we can figure it out. There are Taliban who have a cool head, who say to themselves, hey, the Americans are leaving, let's let them. Let's wave bye-bye, see you, have a nice life, and get the fuck out of our country. Thank you very much. And then there are others who are going to be rabid, who are going to be crazy, and they want to kill somebody on the way out. And, so you've got multiple forces. So, gee, what was going to happen here? You've got basically what we call terrorists taking over a country in essentially a coup, because they were being thrown out, and there's two bombs go off at the airport, and gee, what was going to happen? It's not hard to figure out. And what did I write anything about what I was going to read about this? I don't know. Go ahead and take it away, Amos. I was just ranting there.
Yeah, no, I think well, the problem here is that we don't know 100% who's done it. The thing is that apparently the ISIS-K in Afghanistan has claimed responsibility. So that is something that if they indeed have been the ones doing it, we should explain exactly what the significance of that is. So ISIS is a a group that is in competition with Al Qaeda, and therefore, because Al Qaeda is enmeshed with Taliban, they are enemies of each other. And so when the Taliban took over Kabul in Afghanistan, they executed Omar Khalid Kharasani, who was the former chief of the ISIS-K. ISIS-K is the chapter in Asia, and he basically they executed him as a sign to everybody in the West and to Russia, to Iran, that they are kind of supposedly cracking down on external extremists. But let's not forget that they were rivals to begin with. So they executed this guy. This guy was in prison since last year, imprisoned by the Afghani government. And now what happened with the airport, there was this big explosion, and they apparently...
Two of them.
Yeah, and supposedly the ISIS-K claimed responsibility. Now, if they have, that may be the case. If they have not, and the Taliban is pushing this as a way to get the West to even to help them with eradicate ISIS-K further, and to at the same time take revenge on people who are trying to leave by reaching the airport. That is a possibility. I have not completely ruled that out. I don't know who in ISIS-K has claimed responsibility. That has not. Well, I was looking.
I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know who's responsible either. But I find it really strange that an anchorwoman at CBS News would know all about ISIS-K and be giving out detailed reports less than an hour after the explosions happened. I mean, that is amazing technology, that the evidence can be, collected, transmitted, typed up, put on cue cards, and put on the teleprompter for her to read within an hour. I mean, that's...
I don't know.
I think she should get a raise. All the people involved. I mean, that's some serious competence, and we need more of that.
I don't know. See, the thing is, they knew about this organization. It's not like a new organization. And if they indeed claimed responsibility right after the events, it is possible. I'm not discounting that. It may be the case. It very well may be the case. But I
won't discount it either.
I haven't seen any specifics about where this admission comes from. It's just said. Well, it's being said that they claimed responsibility. Who, when, where?
True or not, if it didn't benefit the administration to say it was ISIS-K, we would not have learned about it within an hour of the bombing. That would, if it wasn't beneficial to the Biden administration to put that info out, we wouldn't have heard it so quickly.
And why would it be beneficial? It would be beneficial, I guess, to save face, first of all, because we have to do what the Taliban is saying. We have to abide by their timeline and by their deadlines. And we're pulling out.
I would suspect the Republic. I mean, the large conservative element may be wanting retaliation, and if you can claim that just as many Taliban died as Americans, who's to retaliate to? ISIS-K? Well, yes, and then you can go and I don't know. It kind of passes the buck conveniently.
So. I don't know. I hope that there's going to be more information about that, because it is a mess to begin with. If we can't, and I was surprised. I received this the latest podcast by Michael Moore has been pretty much an apologist position for the Taliban and for Biden, which very much surprised me. because he's saying the government, the administration has saved over 100,000 people in the last few days, and so we should be eternally grateful to them. And this is not being covered that way, and he's just being unfairly criticized. But we can't forget that the reason we're in this situation is because of a lack of strategy, and it's a huge, it's not a like, oops, we just didn't know, our intelligence wasn't as good or whatever. It's a major event that may influence American politics for many years, for decades to come. And it's something that the government and people in the government, or people external to the government, knew and were warning about. It wasn't something completely unpredicted. So they failed to give it credence, and they failed to plan accordingly. And there are tons of mistakes that they've been making and still are making. Instead of extending the deadline, because we have not yet pulled out all of the people who want to get out of Afghanistan and who are endangered, they've decided to abide by the Taliban this September 1st deadline. Instead of trying to evacuate people through the Bagram airport, which would have been much easier logistically, instead of the Kabul airport that has, I think, one or two lanes or whatever, and is much more difficult to defend. They could have done much better, and they have not. And for that, he totally deserves the critique and the criticism. Unfortunately, people on the right are taking advantage of it, because they're not acknowledging that under Trump it would have been even worse. And we know that because he wanted to pull out in May already. He's given
May 1st. Yeah.
He's given
and he made
everything.
And Biden was in a news report, and he put out that some reporter was interviewing him. He kind of went off on the reporter, and he was making a point that he was saying Trump forced him into this. That Trump made a deal with the Taliban that said, we will get out by May 1st if you don't blow up any Americans, don't kill any Americans. And like for an entire year, no Americans were killed. And
Yes.
It's only since in these two bombings took out 13, but it's a horrible tragedy. But Trump had this deal in place, and Obama was answering some of the criticism, basically saying that he was forced into.
Yeah, but it's not like we're worried about the U.S. reputation in sticking to an agreement when the Taliban clearly broke this agreement on multiple levels prior to this time. So it defies logic. It doesn't really explain. It doesn't make sense. But let's not forget that Trump had given up every possible hand. He gave his hand completely to the Taliban. They basically called the shots, and as long as Trump's administration was concerned, as long as American troops were not hurt, anything else was for grabs. And so it's misrepresenting it to I think both are to blame, and
both are to blame. Nation building was never an intention of either one of them. They're both guilty of that.
Yeah, and saving these people, it's a moral responsibility. It's not something that we're doing out of generosity or something. We set the whole thing up. We caused these people to be compromised by working with the U.S. And now, of course, we have a responsibility to take them out. So that's my belief regarding where we are, and so we're counting the minutes to the deadline. People are, of course, frightened to even attempt to go to to the airport, because in addition to going through Taliban checkpoints, they have to, which is endangering them, or kind of indicating where they stand, even if the Taliban didn't know where they stood. Now they will know, and they can track them back. But they had to pass that, and in addition to that, they could be blown up, and there's a high likelihood of additional attempts happening. So they're really in a tight spot. Going over land is a possibility, but that's a very treacherous land, and that by itself is very risky. So how those people will escape, I'm not sure, but it's a huge problem. And there's been some criticism about the fact that we're concerned with working with the Taliban while we have been working with Saudi Arabia, which is just as bit as suppressive to women and so forth. But I am against both of those.
It's a good cartoon, though. It's a very good cartoon.
But it's not to me it's not a justification to fund the Taliban. It's just condemnation for working with the Saudis, and that is the other thing that I'm worried that the U.S. that the Biden administration will see it just to fund the Taliban in order to prevent a worse the escalation of Afghanistan in terms of its participation with Al Qaeda and so forth, with terrorists. I think that's a mistake. We're again falling into that idea that if we are nice to them, they'll be nice back to us. That's not going to happen.
Well, I hope the train wreck ends. That just would keep it going, screeching forward.
Yeah. And here's Biden attempting the milk crate challenge. And we know that his popularity has dropped. Sadly, that also meant that in a poll recently conducted, it came up that Trump would have won the elections if the elections would have been held right now, and that's beyond absurd. But that's
horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to the censorship issue. I see Oz has left something in the chat. Mm-hmm. Who should be in charge of suppressing misinformation?
Yeah.
Paragraph 2. How is that determined, and by who? And I want to address that a little bit. Is that our government should definitely not be the one doing it, because our government does not have the interest of the people involved. So you'd have to have a government do it ultimately, but what kind of government? And that would be a government that's representing the will of the people, and that where things are open and transparent. And that's so far away from what's going on now that I have to be in agreement with everyone that no suppression should be going on under these circumstances.
I have
and
to
even though
with
I put out there, that it's a public health emergency. Yeah, I believe that, and I'm putting out the strongest argument that can be made in favor of it. But I don't think for a minute that our administration really cares about anything but themselves in this. That since I've been aware that things have been going on for years, this is just the COVID opportunity for the government. Is just an opportunity. They're not searching their souls. A whole lot of people get paid by the war on terror. It's a $1 billion industry. One of the things that we may get into in coming weeks is how large the undercover Pentagon army is in the United States, and what are they doing. There was information put that out a few weeks ago. And so I'm sorry, Amos, I saw Oz's comment there, and I wanted to jump in.
Yeah, I think we addressed it earlier, but
back to Biden.
I think we addressed it earlier, but I have to disagree with you. I don't think any government should be in the business of censorship. I think that's a dangerous precedent. They should have nothing to do with it whatsoever. If at all, there should be some body, independent body, or of like maybe a separate branch of government, such as the judicial or legislative, that would be trusted to do so. I'm not even sure about that, but perhaps a public forum where people would be graded by their fairness by the public itself, and therefore they would weight into different stories as they come across them, like basically outsourcing, like public sourcing of this issue. So it's perhaps a little tricky, but I don't think the government should have any role. Neither this government nor some theoretically perfect government. I don't think that exists. So.
Well, I'm just saying a theoretically perfect government, okay, but since we don't have that, basically we're agreeing, and because what's gone on through the years, as you know, in a way, I'm glad it's finally coming out, because my fear is that, you know, if when you suppress things and you suppress discussion, society can't go forward. We got to work these things out, and the only thing, you know, like, say you're into a particular point of view, you learn more from it. You listen to other people who hold the same point of view and who don't hold the point of view, and you teach yourself, and you become more and more informed. And the only way you can do that is when open discussion. So by meaning, you know, I'm only answering the question like, who would do it? Well, ultimately it would have to be some kind of authority. So I guess that's government somewhere, but I have no idea where it is. I'm just all I've done is say, you know, advocate that it's a public health emergency, and I'm saying that our government is using that as an excuse to pursue their regular agenda, which is suppression of non-mainstream points of view. They don't like dissidents. They never have. And that's why the FBI was created, to suppress the socialists in America. And it was done. It's now a forgotten part of our history. And people think they were, the G-men there were implemented to, you know, catch the guys robbing banks. Oh no, that was PR. That came later. Their original purpose was to shut down the left, and they did it. And what's going on now, I think, is the same thing. And yeah, I want to make it real clear that I'm only putting out, you know, my view about the public health emergency as a touchstone, because that is what they're doing. They're using that as an excuse. And so that's a point of discussion. But I do not, I've been suppressed myself. You know, I'm just like more of a fish in the water about this thing. That's why you don't see me getting upset and pulling my hair out, because like, this is just another walk in the park, you know. But am I for it? No, I am not. Or I wouldn't have a website that is totally independent, where I can go on the dark web and nobody can see me, and I can say what I want, and, you know. And so we just want to be real clear on that. And that's why I wanted to, you know, address that question.
Okay. And so let's cover just a couple of other things. There's been another mass die-off in Europe, and that tons of dead fish were pulled from the largest saltwater lagoon, so that in Spain, and it's a continuation of this story. That basically the water got too warm. The problem is that it affects the algae blooms, and they bloom and take out all the oxygen. The fish just suffocate, and that's been happening in more and more places. It is a fact of life at this point. We see it here and there, and I don't know. You know, we're talking about the next mass extinction, and we keep getting these bad news. So that's one thing. Haiti, you know about the earthquake in Haiti. They're trying to. There's been earthquake followed by a hurricane. They're trying to help these guys get back. There's been a lot of discussion, because last time around The whole recovery was mishandled. A lot of communication, for example, communication companies were buddies of Clinton were propped up there and made billions of dollars, but the people who really needed help did not. And so the attempts now are to have more local management of this process. If you wish to really help in this regard, there is a site called njforhaiti.org. It's in New Jersey, but they help provide assistance over in Haiti. Again, if you want to watch the whole uncensored show of the interview I had with Professor Yair Aragon, it's on Odyssey. It's spelled Odyssee, unlike Odyssey that you would normally spell. And you look for Uphill Media. There you'll find it. We had an interview with a young gentleman that I was very impressed with, very smart and educated, progressive guy in District 26 of Florida. I urge you all to check him out. It was a pleasure to have him on the show. He's running for Congress. He's running against a Republican there. It's mainly an uninhibited slot of land at the very tip of the Keys, basically Everglades, and well, we'll wish him help. And you can also go to his website and donate money there. We also had recently, we spoke to Imani Oakley, who's running in New Jersey for Congress as well, District 10. That interview is also available on the site, either on Odyssey or YouTube. Everything that we do on YouTube is also on Odyssey. She too has a website. If you want to go to oakleyforcongress.com, you can help her out there. Again, there's also Jessica Cisneros, who's running in Texas, and her site is also collecting donations. Upcoming, we have Randall K. Wolf, who's running in District 10 for Congress in Virginia. This will be coming up beginning of the week, either Monday or Tuesday. We have to figure to get their times, so stay tuned. And we'll talk about his priorities and what he's going to do in Congress. So that's about it. Anything else you have to add or mention?
No, I think we covered it. I think we put our positions out. We are opposed to censorship of any kind. I've only put out, a contrary position to make for an intelligent discussion about it, and recognize that there is such a thing as, screaming fire in a crowded theater. But it's a very complicated issue, and it's very sad what happened to us. I hope it doesn't happen again. And it's been great to be here with everybody. And I hope I've done a good job in trying to be part of a good show today. And if I haven't, then I'll try harder next week. Thank you all.
All right. All right. And we will, to go out, we will have a band called Gypsy Funk Squad. And hopefully you'll check them out online. They're a lot of fun. I viewed one of the concerts yesterday and got their CD and everything. It's a lot of fun. So let's go out with that. See you all, guys. Again, don't forget to post the show if you liked it on social media. Post the interview from yesterday. Help us defy censorship.
I will mention that interview. I learned some stuff in there I didn't know. That's like one of the most in-depth coverage of the COVID situations I've seen, because everything else is either misinformation or you're being told something like you're being taught. And that was an actual discussion. And it was a pleasure to watch.
Thank you very much. All right. So see you next week. Bye-bye.
Hello from Istanbul. She made some dough in Istanbul. There ain't no snow in Istanbul, and everybody's having fun. I wanna see you belly dance. 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 Belly dance. I wanna see you belly dance. I wanna see Johannes belly dance. I wanna see Sakara belly dance. I wanna see you belly dance.